Hello, beautiful teachers, and welcome to the weekly show on YouTube, where we go through the latest goings on in the music teaching industry. We talk about a special topic, and we do fun things like a little member book club that we explore on the show as well. So if you're new here, please do say hello to us in the chat. We're a friendly, welcoming community. Newbies are welcome, and we'd love to hear from you. And I'd especially like to hear about our topic of today, which is about saying no. What do you need to say no to? What's hard for you to say no to? What's easy for you to say no to? What do you hear other people being bothered about and you're like, I just passed that by. That doesn't bother me at all. I'd love to hear either perspective on that. If you're brand new and you're new to me, hello. Nice to meet you. My name's Nicola Canton. I'm a piano teacher over in Dublin, in Ireland. That's where this accent comes from. And I run a site called Vibrant Music Teaching and a blog called Colourful Keys. So if you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel. Make sure you join us on the next one of these shows. We need to vote on our snap camera before we go any further. So this is a new little tradition here. And it is just a bit of fun. It's just something I'm doing for the gas, as we say here. I don't know if other people say that. For the crack, for the gas. That's a very Irish thing to say, I think. So during the last segment today, we do an Ask Me Anything section. And during that, or the whole way through the show, you can just type question and then your question. And I come back to all of those, do my best to answer everything at the end to the best of my ability. So just start it with question and type your question. And while I answer those questions at the end, because I am all about fun and a little bit about embarrassing myself, I like to put on a little snap camera appearance. So you get to choose which one it is today. I have two prepared for you. This is the first one. This is anime style. What do we think of anime style? Are we going to vote for this one today? The movement of the mouth is really strange, but that is what anime looks like. And in fact, a lot of my students really like anime films, so maybe it's something you want to get used to. Or we have the vintage poster. Ooh, that went a bit funny, but here's the vintage poster. This is a little bit more flattering, maybe too flattering. Maybe it's not silly enough. You guys will have to vote on which one you want. So once again, here's anime style, funny looking mouth, and it does something, it kind of fails when I put my hand in front. You ready? There's my face behind, but my hand is kind of comic-y. Anyway, that's it failing a little bit. And then we have vintage poster. Which one are you going to vote for? Andrew says anime. Anyone up for vintage? Lizzo says vintage. Let me know which one you want. As I said, this is maybe a bit too flattering. You probably want me to embarrass myself a bit more. I do look rather sad in the anime, Kelly. That's a good point. But anime characters do look a bit sad. And then vintage poster ladies do look a bit too happy, don't they? So that's kind of a theme, isn't it? If we want to call it that. Okay. Oh, it's even Stevens today. It's usually really easy to call. Lee, anime. Don't worry, we all live under a rock for certain things. Anime is Japanese cartoon movies. I'm sure you've seen some of them, like you've seen the appearance of them. It looks kind of like that, but it's Japanese cartoon. It's just Japanese for cartoon or animation, really. Animation. Yeah? Okay. Vintage anime. Oh my god, I'm actually going to have to count today. It's so even. I think we've got a few more vintages, have we? Oh, the vintage does make you laugh. Good. That's my goal. So as long as it's not too pretty. Not that I want to look like this. You know. Nothing wrong with it. But, you know, I'm not a 50s poster. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... 6. Yeah, I think the vintage has it. We're going to go with vintage. Okay, so when we come back to the Ask Me Anything section, the question section, I'm going to be in this filter to answer your questions. So the more questions you ask during the show, the longer I look like this. So if that's motivating to you, keep those questions flying in. Okay, and with that, let's get on with the show. So it's time for our warm-up, and we start by just grounding ourselves and taking a few breaths together, and then we're going to do some rhythm and solfa warm-ups. So first of all, let's ground ourselves. I want you all at home. Yes, it might feel a bit crazy. It might feel like you're talking to a screen or you're reacting to something that's just coming through YouTube at you, but I'm real and I'm going to do it. So you do it too. What I want you to do is reach your right hand up to the sky. Reach your left hand up to the sky. Bring your hands together and down to your heart. And then take a deep breath in for 1, 2, 3, 4, and out 1, 2, 3, 4. And if anything was stressing you out this Monday, like, to be honest, it was for me, it's been a busy, hectic day for me so far, then let it go. Let's all let it go together, and let's have some silly fun with some Rhythm Railroad. So Rhythm Railroad is our series inside Vibrant Music Teaching. If you're not a member and you want access to this, you can sign up at vibrantmusicteaching.com. Now, these series are all about interacting with rhythm, getting our kids moving, getting us moving, and we like to practice them together here on the show because, well, you get to see me fail, and that's really fun, isn't it? So you get to see me not quite be able to coordinate, especially when there are feet involved, especially when I'm standing and there's the feet. I really have trouble with it, but we're going to practice together. So let's do it in Kodai syllables first. So the light blue is one hand tapping, patch, tap on your knee. I'm going to do it up here so you can see. And the dark blue is 2. And then the foot is stamp your foot or tap your foot. Okay, so we're doing T, 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 ta, T, T, ta, 2, T, 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 ta, T, T, ta, 2, T, 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 ta, ta, 2, 3, T, T, ta, 2, ta, 2, 3. I hope you practice with me. Even if you didn't practice with me, it's time to give it a go. Okay, so I'm going to put on the track now. At the start of the track, there'll be 2 bars, 2 measures of count in with the drummer. And then it will start. Try and keep up with it. Try and do it. Don't follow what I'm doing because I'll probably mess it up. Just give it a go. Put yourself in your student's shoes. Here we go. I didn't do too bad on that one. How did you guys do? Let me know in the chat. We're going to do one more. We do 2 each week on this one. So this one, we have a heart and a hand. So the heart is hand on heart, or some of my students do this, and I don't mind if they do that. And we have one hand and a foot like we had last time. So let's practice it first. I'll do counting this time. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. And 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, a question just occurred to me while I was doing that. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the chat after we've tried this. Be thinking about it. Do you do all the ands even when you don't need them? I grew up doing it that way, where I do, even if there were no quavers, I would say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the whole time. And some kids respond better to that. Or do you cut them out like I just did when you don't need them? I'd love to hear which one you like to do, or whether you do a mixture like me. Let's try it together. 2, 3, 4. messed up a lot more that time, didn't I? The students in my studio know that I will do something on time, generally, or pretty on time, but I might not do the right action. And they'll be there doing the right action, but out of time. And I prefer to just do something on the music. Yes, that's a hard one to do. The heart messes with me. Yeah, it's the foot for me. It's whenever I have the foot, I mess it up. I can do it all when it's all up here, and then I incorporate the foot and I get so lost. Especially when it's actually this combo, the foot and the one hand. Not even the two hands, just the one hand and the foot. Throws me off completely. I don't have the greatest coordination, but that's okay. Yeah, Lee, it is, isn't it? It's easier sitting down because I can tap the front of my foot. It's really hard to do that standing up, to be honest. Yeah, Lee, that's the way I grew up doing it, but I've found that I started cutting them all out because I realized you could do that, and I preferred it as a musician. Like, on my end, I preferred it. And then I've started putting it back in for some students now, the ones that need it. Yeah, Ashmitha does it my old way, not my new way as well. Yeah, Chelsea, you're my new way. So I think it's going to be split back and forth. Okay, we've one more warm-up to do and then we'll get going with our news. So this is just one of these now, and we are going to... Sorry, you're going to sing. You're going to sing the solfa. See, it starts on me. This level only uses me, so, and la, okay? So it starts on me. I'm going to do the hand signs in case you want to practice those, but I suggest you do both. Here we go. Oh, there's a tonic chord and a starting note, and then the count in this one. Hang on, let's take this one. Sorry, I must have the wrong track loaded there in my browser. So this one goes so, la at the start. Let's try this one. Okay, I'm normally better at the hand signs than that, but I kind of caught myself off guard there. Let's try it one more time, shall we? Nice! Even if you just hummed along, you're doing great. Let's get into our news. Alright, so I want to hear your news in the chat as well, but I'll share mine with you. I have been, the last week, a lot of it has been prepping for the new games release. So this is the second level of our scale project. It's called Scale Sync. Let me know in the chat if you've tried the major ones already. I know it takes a while to get to stuff, so no worries if you haven't gotten to it yet. But those were released on January 1st, and members have them inside the printable library, the sort of downloads library. And those are an amazing set of backing tracks that I have been using with my students all the way through, from testing all the way through until, after their release. We're still using them now. They provide fantastic goals for students because they want to move on to the next track, and they're just great. I'm so happy with them, and I'm so happy that we're doing them. But oh my gosh, they are an enormous undertaking. You probably have no idea, but behind the scenes, they are really one of the most ambitious resources we've ever created. And so tomorrow is the 1st of February, so we're releasing the natural minors. For those of you who don't like to use natural minor, don't worry, we're doing harmonics after that, then melodics after that. We're going to have all of you covered, but we're doing one set at a time. There's 102 different variations, 102 different tracks, and 102 different videos in each set. Yes, I'm serious. So I've been working on that, and some other stuff, final touches for some of the games that are releasing tomorrow. Yes, it is called Scale Sync. That's right, Lee. Scale Sync. And so far we have the major 1-octave set already out. Natural Minors coming out tomorrow. And I've also been working on a new project, which is sort of a secret, but I tend to tell you all on this show my secrets. One of my secrets, by the way, which isn't a secret, but I'm trying to stop saying you guys. So you all can start calling me out on that if you like. I say it all the time, and it is a very Irish/British thing to use it as a non-gendered term, but it is a gendered term, and I'd prefer to stop using it and start saying you all or something like that. So maybe we can start a counter and you can call me out on how many times I use it each session. Anyway, you all can be the first to know about this. This is just a little sneak peek, but that's something I've been working on. It's a new type of workshop that I'm trialing with my teenage students. If it works, I think it's going to be a game changer for teen retention. So that is a big focus for me right now in my studio, because I have a lot of students who this year started high school, and then I've a few more on their tail next year. I just have a lot in that age range. It's kind of, one of those things when you start a studio and then it kind of drips through for the first few years, and then you have a rush of students, right? Around the same age, and so it all kind of pools at certain age ranges until you've been where you are for a very long time, I would guess. And I've only been here 9-ish years, so that's a long time. Like, I feel like I've lived here a long time, but it doesn't allow you to cycle through all the way through all of these things and for it to even out. So anyway, I have very good student retention, and I have managed to hang on to most of these teens, but it's definitely a tricky time to keep them in lessons. And I'm hoping this will make a difference. So that's what I'm trialing this week. Wish me luck. All my teens are lovely, but they are a hard audience, right? So I have to appear cool on Thursday. Hopefully they will think I'm that and not think I'm some I was about to say some weirdo, but I am some weirdo, but hopefully they think that in a good way. Yeah, Lee, that's what I wish I could get away with, honestly. But I think I have to say you all. I can't say y'all. I don't think I can adopt it. What I definitely can't adopt, steal, is ye, which is a different part of Ireland. But I kind of wish I was born in a different part of Ireland, because then I could say ye, and that works perfectly too. That's you plural in most of Ireland. Oh, Angie, thank you for that question. So yes, I'm happy to answer any questions about that. So that is coming up in August. It's a 2-day seminar, and it's going to be in Dublin, as you said. It's going to be in the city centre. And it's kind of a 2-day intensive. We're going to be exploring so the loose themes for each day are based on ages. So we're going to be going younger students first day, as in like primary school age or elementary school age the first day, and secondary school adult the second day, teens and adults the second day. That's just our loose format. All throughout that, we're going to be exploring strategies together for teaching through games. We're going to be improvising together, and it's all very practical. I didn't call it a workshop because that tends to imply a shorter time frame. I toyed a lot with the language on this, and I think seminar is the right word because it's an intensive session. So we're going to go on a journey together. We're going to explore all of these things and put them into practice together. For those of you who don't know, this was actually delayed. This was supposed to happen in 2020, and we all know why it didn't. So it was supposed to be August of 2020. Couldn't happen in 2021. 2022 seems like it's a go. I mean, it is. I'm going ahead with it. There's no doubt about it. But of course, if something did come up this summer with the whole pandemic situation, I would refund everything and help you cancel whatever you need to cancel and all that stuff. But I think we're good to go, so we're going ahead. And it's going to be fun. Most of all, why I want you to come is I want you to get together with other like-minded teachers. I know how rare that is, and I know how tough it's been without conferences. And even when you do have the conferences, a lot of the people there might have a different mindset to you. These are all going to be teachers who really, they don't have to be members. You don't have to be a member to come, but they'll be on the same bandwagon that you're probably on, Angie. So let me know if you have any follow-up questions to that. But it's 2 days plus a get-together on the Friday night. So it's a weekend, but there's a get-together on the Friday night. And we will have an optional dinner at the end as well if you want to extend it. And I would suggest extending it a bit more and seeing a bit of Dublin as well if you can. Nice. Okay. So other news, we have a new podcast episode out. It's about defining your studio's brand. That is also a blog post, which is not written by me. That's a guest article. So that is on the Colourful Keys blog, and it will be it's in our latest edition of Bright Notes, the member magazine as well, if you want to read it in that format. I also, for those of you who aren't members, there is one of our scale play along, the scale syncs that I mentioned. One of them is released here on YouTube. So if you want to see what that's about and why I'm so excited about these, that's just one of the 102 that are in one level. That's not meant to overwhelm you, by the way. The 102 are all about options for your students. It's so that you have every version you need. For example, there's all the white keys in case you do all of those first. There's all the black keys because we all know students learn all 12 and then they still don't know the flats if they didn't start with those. So, or if you do start with those, you can do all of those first. And then there's a circle of fourths, a circle of fifths, and a chromatic version just to really test students' memory if they tend to rely on the circle of fifths to figure out the sharps and flats and etc. So there's a lot going on there, and in each one of those there are 6 different styles so that they have lots of variety and they can progress through the speeds as well. So that is here on YouTube. Just click through to the channel whenever you're ready to view that. And then I wanted to also tell you about our next chat. So that is about predicting piano student progress. So if you can come along next week, get it in your calendar. What I want to discuss then is about, okay, what can we expect? Because I feel like so many teachers get really worried that their students aren't progressing as they should. And parents get worried about it as well. And students even don't know what's realistic or what's good progress. So I want to break down, with your help, what do we expect for the different ages? If a student starts at age 7, what should they be able to do after a year? And how is that different for a younger student? And what does a student look like after 5 years? And of course, that varies hugely based on practice. So that's really what we're going to be unpacking. It's all of those different variations, obviously not defining any kind of list, but just discussing that and trying to come up with answers together of how we present this to parents and to students so that they understand when they're within the normal range and understand how much practice affects how fast they're moving. So, and also so that you can see it and see that your studio is normal. Because many teachers will look on YouTube or wherever and look at the likes of Irina Gorin's students who play beautifully. They play gorgeous, beautiful pieces and at a very young age and after not that many years of lessons. But we need to understand the parent involvement involved in that level. Because she does require a lot of parent involvement. And if you want to require that too, that's a decision. But don't compare apples to oranges. It's basically what we're going to be trying to undo next week. But this week, we're talking about saying no. So let's dive in to that. When it comes to saying no to things, this can be one of the hardest things for teachers. Is it hard for you too? I know many of us are recovering people pleasers, or type A and we want everything to be perfect, or just introverted and we don't want to have those confrontational conversations with people. We don't have to have confrontations all the time. It doesn't have to be combative, but we do need to say no to things. So let's dive into what exactly we need to say no to. I'd love to hear your examples of this. A few that have come to mind for me. Number one won't be a surprise to anyone who's followed me for a little while, and that is makeup lessons. If you have it in your policy that you don't do makeup lessons, or even if you limit them in some way, you need to be able to say no when people try to ask for them, try to push past your limits. What about extra help outside lessons? I know many parents will ask for this just before an exam, or they'll just ask for feedback on this, that, and the other in between lessons. And if it's not part of your regular service and not something you've allowed for, maybe you need to say no to that. What else do you need to say no to? I know many teachers in the UK, in Ireland, in Australia, maybe in Canada a little bit, need to say no to parents who are pushing for the next exam, or students who are pushing for the next exam, when you know it's not in their best interest and it's not going to help them progress. Maybe you need to say no to a parent who wants to leave the recital early or come late. Have you had any parents ask to do that? Did you say no to them? And how did you do it? I know it's uncomfortable. It really is. Maybe you need to say no to a parent who wants to pay you late. Do you have any parents who ask about that or just try and get away with it? Do you say no to them, or are you pushed beyond your comfortable limits? And what about new students? I have to say no to new students all the time. And one of the ways I've handled that is to automate that reply, because when I did it myself, it was so uncomfortable, especially when I had to look at that message that said, we tried to find a teacher for her, we can't find the right fit, no one is up for teaching her with her specific needs, or we can't find anyone locally who doesn't want her to just sit exams right away and go through all the grades. It was really hard to read those messages, but I knew that I couldn't take that student, so I had to say no. And now, as I say, I do say no automatically through an email that goes out that warns them about our waiting times, because some of these burdens you just shouldn't be putting on yourself in real time. Now let's look at why are we saying no. So why do you say no to things? Why does it matter to you? Well, number one thing might be the life balance. You need to say no to the makeup lessons, to the extra help, to the extra pressure, because you need to balance this with your actual life. If you have one outside piano teaching, I assume you do, at least a little one. And maybe you want to expand that life outside piano teaching. So you need to retain some time to do that. That's not just important for you because it'll make you feel better. It's important for your health, which is my next reason you have to say no. If you are constantly doing extra things, going the extra mile beyond what you should and what you are paid to do by the parent, beyond what should be reasonably expected of you, then you can't look after your own health. Number one, you might just be adding extra stress, and that is really bad for you. You might be not finding the time to exercise. You might be rushing to get good food onto the table for your family or just for yourself, and so you're relying on convenience food or takeout, and you know it doesn't make you feel good. I'm not here, by the way, to judge anyone who loves takeout food. I'm just saying if it makes you feel like you're not running at your best and you're forced into that decision because you can't say no to people, that's a problem. You also need to say no, in my view, and this is one that was a big moment for me when I realized this. I'm saying no to one student to be fair to another student. If I take that extra makeup lesson for little Jemima after my usual teaching day at 7 in the evening, when I'm supposed to be having my dinner, if I take that extra lesson for little Jemima, then the next day, am I as good of a teacher? Am I as ready for my lesson, the first lesson of the next day with Terry? I would argue no, and especially not if I do it consistently. If you go beyond your own boundaries, if you break your own policies, it's not a favor to that student. It's unfair to all the other students. If you let a parent push you into scheduling something that is during your break, even at the start of the year, right when scheduling is such a nightmare, and sometimes you just want to say yes to a parent who insists that they have to come at 12:10 on a Saturday. But you know that means you don't get a break for 3.5 hours, and you know that for you, that's too long. You have to say no, because the student after the 12:10 student, they're the one that suffers, because you didn't have your next coffee break, or whatever the case may be. The last reason I think you should say no is because you said so. Because it's your business. For most of you anyway, you're running your own business. So if you want to set things up in a certain way, if you want to run your business a certain way, and you have enough clients running it that way, it is a sustainable business, then it's no because it's no. You don't have to have a justification. It can just be because that's the way you want to do things. So that's the why. How do we actually do it? Anyone got any tips? Add them into the comments. How do you say no? How do you say no without losing the student, without upsetting people, including yourself? One option is to just refer to the policy. That's not our policy. And for certain things, this works, right? For makeup lessons, that's not what we do. That's not our policy. Another way is to say sort of the same thing is I can't do that. Now, some people don't like I can't do it because maybe the real truth is you won't do it. But if you come back to that fairness to other students, you can't do it. It's against your rules. You can't. So I don't have a problem, honestly, saying that, using that word. You can also just say no, especially if someone is being extra pushy and they've gone beyond a reasonable conversation. Sometimes people are just asking because they're just asking, and that's fine. I'm not going to reply one word no to something that is a reasonable request, but not how we do things. However, if they are trying to push you, if they are trying for a confrontation, I have no problem with just no or repeating what I said before. Another way, and what I try to do in most instances, is to give them what I can do. Here's what we will do. So for makeup lessons, if they're asking to make up a lesson, I don't even mention the fact that I'm not going to do it. I don't say that directly. I say, oh, I'm sorry you can't make his lesson. Here's how to schedule an online lesson if that'll work for you. At the same time, here's how to get in touch with their teacher, or for me to set up a video lesson, which is a pre-recorded lesson. So I don't even need to say we're not doing the makeup lesson. I just tell them what we are doing. And most parents just go with that. They have no problem. You can also, if you are very uncomfortable with confrontation and you're having a lot of troubles with parents coming up with things like this, is to have a fake assistant. This is only for some people, but if you are really bothered by this and it is really hard for you to say no, one of the reasons I like the automation that I mentioned before, where an automatic email goes out that is clearly automatic. I'm not pretending anything, but it's clearly an automated response, and it is telling them about our waiting list times and not to expect a response from me unless we have availability. One of the reasons I like that is because it doesn't feel like I'm doing it. And to them, it sort of doesn't feel like I'm doing it. It's just the system doing it. So maybe you want to go a step further. I haven't done this, but maybe you want to. You could have a fake assistant called Anna. And Anna could email people back. It's you, but you could just reply as Anna and even have a tagline. Now, maybe that's lying, maybe you don't like it, but I know for some people who are really uncomfortable with this is what saves them. Finally then, where are the traps? What do we need to watch out for with this whole idea of saying no to people? Number one thing is apologies. And I do think this is made worse or is a bigger problem because our industry, piano teachers, a lot of us are women. I'd say 90%. That's just me guessing. We don't ask about gender anyway on our survey, so I'm not sure. But it feels like it's 80 to 90%. So I do think this whole apologizing all the time thing is a bit of a female thing. Correct me if you think I'm wrong. But I do find myself doing it a lot. And I am both a woman and Irish, which is like being Canadian in terms of saying sorry all the time. So I know the struggle is what I'm trying to say. It is really hard for me not to say, sorry, I can't do that, or all the pseudo-sorries, like just, only. Those are actually sorry. They're trying to couch the language to make it more somehow acceptable, digestible, in a way that really doesn't need to be. Now, I'm not saying don't apologize when it's your fault, when you've done something wrong. I do apologize for those situations, of course, sincerely and without caveats. But don't say sorry when you don't mean sorry. The other issue that I see people come up against a lot, which hasn't usually been an issue for me, but I do see evidence of it all around, is the over-explaining. Let me know if this is your issue. Let me know if you don't apologize for things, but you do over-justify them. It's tempting, I know, to say, we have this reason and that reason, and then I have to make dinner, and this is happening and that's happening. None of that is necessary. It's no because you say it's no. You don't have to come up with all these different reasons. You have to say it politely and professionally, but you don't have to tell them what you're doing instead of that. You can't do a makeup lesson because you have choir practice or you're making dinner. I think it should be fine that you don't do a makeup lesson because you feel like going and sitting on the couch, or because you feel like sitting on the floor and hugging your dog, or because you feel like going and getting a glass of wine, or just staring at the floor. You can do what you want with your time. You don't have to explain where it's going instead. You can mention a little bit of why a thing is the way it is. For example, with the recitals and asking to leave early, maybe you want to say that wouldn't be fair to other students, just to put them in a bit of a frame of mind of why this is happening this way. But you don't need to go beyond that. You don't need to over-explain it. The last one is saying yes. That's the last pitfall I want you to watch out for. Saying yes because you think you're doing them a favor. But what you're really doing is training a certain behavior. I see this so much in these posts on Facebook, and a teacher says, this family, this time it's gone too far. I've let them do this, I've let them do that, I've let them do that, and now they've asked to do this. And without being harsh, I want to say, they asked to do that because you let them do these things. I don't think it's right that they've asked you to do any of that. Don't get me wrong. I think people push too hard a lot of the time. And I hate the phrase, well, it never hurts to ask. Like when people ask for a discount and they say, well, it doesn't hurt to ask. No, it does hurt. It hurts me. I hate it when people do that. But if you say yes a whole bunch of times, they no longer feel like it's a favor. Even when you say yes once and it's towards the beginning, they don't think that's a favor. They think that's how things go. You have to train them in what is expected in your studio. And then, if they've been there years and there's a real circumstance where you genuinely feel like you want to give a compassionate exception, they will know that that's an actual favor, but it should be a real exception, not the rule that is secretly under the table, the rule. So be careful with your yeses. Give them out when you mean them, but give them out against your policies very sparingly, because you are training people to behave a certain way. You're training them in what is expected in your studio, much more than your policies ever will. So if you have trouble saying no, please try it. Please try some of these tips. Take just one of them. Try saying no one more time than you would have originally. And hopefully regain some of your life balance or your health or your time to stare at your floor, if that's what you want to do. Lee said, yes, I'm too wordy and have to reread and cut my email responses. Yeah, it's so important to be a good editor of your own emails. And I think it's a great tip as well to pause before editing. So one of the things they tell you all the time in writing, I've written several books now and I'm not a natural writer at all, but when I learned a lot about writing in the beginning, they would tell you to just write the first draft and then put it in a drawer or a digital drawer, let it sit, and then edit it with fresh eyes, at least the next day, but ideally like a week. So you can't do that with an email, but you can come back the next day. Especially if you feel your blood boiling, don't send the response. Write it if you want to, but write it without putting their email address in yet. That's something I picked up from Seth Godin. He said the email address should be the last thing you write. And he's so right. Because otherwise you can send something too early. If you put that in last, if you train yourself to do that, you don't send it before you mean to. So let it sit and come back when your blood is not boiling is a big tip for those who have a tough time with that. I have to practice responding in a mirror so I feel more confident with the words. Yes, it's really good if it's going to be things you have to say. It's really good to practice these responses, especially if you are like us, like me and like the piano lesson experience. It's really good to rehearse these things, to have things you've practiced saying. And over time, this becomes more natural, a bit more natural, at least for me it has. It's still not my natural way to be. I mean, I still want to say, okay, just hang on a second, go take 2 minutes to think about my response. So if it's something that I feel I am going to get pushback on, I will have something sort of, even if I don't practice it out loud, but in my head, like, this is what I would say if they say this. I want to spend less time revising. That's interesting, Corey. So it's a skill that's learned and also about being organized and keeping templates to edit. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, templates are huge. If you ever write something to a parent and you think another parent might ask this, just save it right there on the spot. Like if you use Gmail, it's just you just click save as template. And then every so often, yeah, maybe you go through them and clear them out. Great chat going on today. Lee, that's a great phrase. Really good tip for people. The schedule won't allow it. So thank you to Wendy Stevens and to you for that one, for passing it on. Okay, lovely chat going on today, guys. I'm going to move into our book club, but keep the thoughts and comments coming and keep your questions coming. And I will revert to my poster version to answer those in a moment. Okay, so I actually wanted to show you at the start here where this is in our community for members who are watching and aren't sure about the book club, because it's kind of an informal thing, but I have got a post up in the community about it. So what you need to do is go to the community. And then it's in the general discussion area, but it's actually recent, so it's up the top right here in the recent discussions. So this is the post where I just write my thoughts as I go through, and I do welcome yours as well. That's also where I've posted the schedule. For this book, it's very simple. So we're doing introduction chapter 1 today, chapter 2 next week, chapter 3 the week after that. I think you get the idea. There are 7 chapters in this book, so we're just doing 1 a week. It's pretty simple. It's called Teaching Piano to Students with Special Needs, and it's by Mary Ann Froelich. Someone needs to tell me how to say her name. I forgot to look it up. Froelich? Anyway, it's by her, and I really enjoyed reading the intro and chapter 1. It was really not what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, but a chapter 1 is often just a lot of like, here's what you're going to read in the rest of the book, or some kind of preliminary setup. And this kind of was that, but in a different way that I really enjoyed. So for those who haven't read it yet, the introduction in chapter 1, a lot of it is about the effect of music on the brain and how learning music might be beneficial for students with certain learning differences or different special needs, and how this is affected by our age, and a lot about the white matter in the brain. So it sounds very technical when I say it like this, but it's really just an overview idea. And I thought it was really, really interesting, especially about the white matter and about the benefits of deep practice for developing that. I liked a quote. She quoted Daniel Coyle in her book, and she said, myelin, which is the white matter stuff, doesn't care who you are. It only cares about what you do. I.e., it doesn't care what you think about or like who you are, what special needs you have, or any other factor. It cares about what you do. So it's about that deep practice. It's about the actions. And she also talked a lot about talent and the talent myth, and how a lot of her students go much further than a more talented counterpart because they do put in the practice, and that can be such a valuable role in their life, and also they can go very far with it. So it's broad in its scope, but I see where she's going, and I'm really excited to continue this book. I would recommend to those who read this and were like, oh, I'd love to read more about this music in the brain stuff. I don't know how much of the rest of the book is going to go into that. Maybe it'll be a lot about it. But if you want a different perspective on that, one that she hasn't mentioned so far in her book, I would recommend The Music Advantage by Anita Collins. Has anyone else read that? As a more not special needs focused, what effect does music have on the brain in different age groups in a really accessible, really readable way. I think it's a fantastic book. Rachel, I really like the line, when working with special learners, we must remember that passion and practice are better predictors of musical success than intelligence or natural ability. I like that too, and I would take away the start of it, right? We must remember, and start from there, that passion and practice are better predictors of musical success than ability or intelligence. Like, that's true of all our students, and we know that. So I feel like she was just reinforcing that even more with our students with special needs. Like, don't think of them differently. I also love the phrase, which again was borrowed from someone else, that she just mentioned, small muscle athletes. Had anyone else heard that before? I hadn't. And I love it. So referring to musicians as small muscle athletes, because we do something physical and sometimes we don't consider that enough. And I think that's really important in terms of technique and stuff. That's on our other topic. Come back to that in a second. Yeah, nice. Well, I hope you're enjoying the book. Like, we've just gotten started on it, so feel free to chime in, to join in with us. It's called Teaching Piano to Students with Special Needs. It's by Mary Ann Froelich. That's Froehlich. Someone tell me how to pronounce it, and I'll be delighted to adjust my speech. But anyway, that is her. If you just look up Teaching Piano to Students with Special Needs, you should find it. And I'm really looking forward to diving in, even more so since I've read the first chapter. I think this is going to be an interesting read, so I hope you'll join in too. And I hope if you're a member that you'll go over to the community and let me know your thoughts there. If you're more of a typer than a chatter on the show here, I'd welcome your thoughts there too. Okay, somehow I jumped back around there, but here we are, as promised. Let me know your questions. Get them in quickly, because I'll just answer whatever was left before, and then I will come back to any that you write now as well. So start with the word question, type your question, and I will come back to it, and hopefully I'll be able to speak for the whole duration. For those of you who just joined, by the way, for this last segment, it's an Ask Me Anything segment. You can ask me about anything. It doesn't have to be to do with today's topic. And I put on a weird filter just for funsies to keep us all entertained while I answer these questions. So this is a poster, what did it call itself? Vintage poster filter from Snap Camera. Okay, Angie. How can I say no to student requests for popular music that's way above their reading level and takes them away from method book practice and pieces that will grow their reading skills? Okay, Angie, this is really interesting, and thank you for asking the question. I wouldn't say no. So I'm maybe not the person to ask on this one. I get what you're saying. I wouldn't say no to that. I would give them an alternative. And it is about balance. So I'm not saying I would say, yeah, okay, forget the method book, throw it away. I definitely wouldn't do that if I still think that's going to help them progress and going to be beneficial and lead them towards their goals. But there's a balance to be struck here. And I would allow them to learn popular music, but in a different way. So I would say, okay, I love that you love this music. I love when anyone's passionate about any type of music. So that's great that you brought it to me. I love to hear what you're interested in. The thing about this sheet music, like if they brought you sheet music, is that it's not really the greatest arrangement for piano, because it often isn't, because of the way they've done it. So what I'd like to do is look this up for you in a chord chart, and we can learn it in a whole new way. And it's going to be so much more fun. And this is the way I usually explain to students that they understand is it's more like how a guitarist would play, like if you sing. And so I'd help them to learn it through a lead sheet or a chord chart rather than saying no to it in that case. Ashmitha, and I missed your comment earlier. You said please include India in the exam group, and you're absolutely right. I try to list off countries. Really what I should say is if you're not in America, if you're not in the US, you might be familiar with this, because a lot of the teachers in the US don't get what I'm talking about with the whole Exam Express thing. But you're absolutely right. India should have been in that list, as should have been Singapore and many other countries. So, your question this time though, how do you manage your time? You do so much productive work. Oh my gosh, today I don't feel like I do. I had a hectic day. How do I manage my time? Broadly, I split it between the morning is this kind of stuff, like the vibrant music teaching stuff, the online stuff, and the afternoon is my teaching and studio stuff. So like I start that a little bit earlier than my actual teaching because I need to prepare things. Sometimes the studio completely takes over on weeks when I'm not teaching. The online stuff completely takes over. But if you want some ideas on productivity, we do have a course, Productivity for Teachers, inside the course library. So maybe check that out. that is just a compilation of different strategies because different things work for different people at different times. So going through that course, even in a really slow incremental way, if you feel like you don't manage your time well, I think you'll pick things up along the way there. But that's broadly how I split it up. Let me know if you have a follow-up on that. Chelsea, what do you suggest to engage my older teenage students? I have one student who is a wonderful musician, jazz band member, very quiet teenager, and hard to tell if he enjoys lessons. You know what? I've had a few like this that are so quiet that you're like, do you hate me? Or do you hate lessons? And often the answer really is no, they are just quiet. And I know I was a very much quieter teenager than I am as an adult, and I'm still actually a pretty quiet person in person. So I do get them as well. Wonderful musician and jazz band member. So there's your clue. They are a musician. They might be loving it as it is. I do make a point to every so often ask my students, my teenage students in particular, like every few weeks, I say, hey, is there anything we're not learning at the moment that you would love to be learning? And I just keep asking that, even though most of the time they say, no, or I can't think of anything. Because if I ask it enough, I find that they're more open with me in the future, coming to me about, oh, actually, this musical just came out and I really love this one song from it and I don't know if it would work on piano, and I take that and run with it. So when they do come to you with something like that, make sure that you take it so that you're showing them, like, I really care. Now, not everything is going to be applicable. I'm just saying, like, show the respect for it almost, for that music. Make sure they know that you took that request seriously, that you're doing what you can with it. And if you can't do anything with that particular music, you come up with an alternative or brainstorm it with them. I hope that helps, Chelsea. Already answered that one, Angie. Emmy, that's an interesting question. Rhythm Railroad symbols available for teachers to make paddles. I feel like I want to use the symbols to be paddled for students to sight read. I'm not sure how that would work. Emmy, can you email support@vibrantmusicteaching.com and explain more about what you're picturing? I'm not quite visualizing how it would work as paddles, because you would have to repeat them unless I'm misunderstanding completely. So let me know and I'll see what we can do. Lee, how often do I do the Rhythm Railroad in lessons? Do the ones that aren't fans of it like it more when they get more comfortable? Every lesson pretty much, and yes. And that's not just me being VMT biased. Like, yeah. I am slightly sometimes biased towards newer stuff. So, you know, when new things come out, it's fun. But really, Rhythm Railroad has been one of those things that it's just a game changer in terms of fitting in this rhythm stuff and making it gradually increase in difficulty. That's what I love so much about it. So I do it in pretty much every lesson. Not all, say, my older student lessons, but and I do have older students in buddy lessons, but every buddy lesson we do at least 2, often 3. And I do it in a lot of the solo lessons as well. Okay, I think I've answered all the questions. Let me double check that I didn't miss anything on the end there. Yeah, I think I got everything. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I love hanging out with you every week. I hope you'll come back next week. It is all about predicting piano student progress. So what can we expect with students after 1 year, 3 years? How is that affected by doing 5 minutes of practice versus 10 versus 30? We're going to try and unpack that as best as we can and try to alleviate some of your concerns about your own students' progress and help you to communicate better with parents about that as well. So I hope I'll see you next week. We'll have 2 new fun, weird filters for you to choose from as well. And it should be a lot of fun. See you there.